but I'm going to make another bee one. Okay. So what do we need? We need, now funnily enough, it doesn't take too much fabric. You could actually make the outer piece from scraps of fabric if you like. Make it as a crazy patchwork, whatever you like on the outside. So let me just go through the pieces and, let's see. So we will need one piece of the bee fabric. There we go. That is how big, and that's how it's going to be, that size. We need exactly the same size for our lining fabric. All the dimensions are in the PDF. We also need fusible fleece as well, which I've already popped on the back, exactly the same size. So I've already fused that. We need 2 pieces for our pockets, which could be different fabrics. I've just chosen white. It could also be clear vinyl, which I must make another and put clear vinyl so that you can see through the pocket once it's inserted. We have then got a piece for our handle with a little bit of fusible fleece to strengthen the handle. We then need 4 little pieces like this in the actual fabric, the outer fabric. And then I've got 2 pieces that are just white, which are also within our zip section. I've already folded the others. I've only got 1 here, but you'll have 4 of these and 2 white. And we've then got, I think this is the last piece, 2 zips, 2 lovely yellow zips, and also a piece of fabric for our binding. So it's on the straight grain. It's a width of fabric, which this one's 2 inches wide. So a little bit different to, well, no, it's the same as binding fabric, isn't it? 2 inches wide, whole width of fabric, folded in half and pressed, wrong sides together. So we've got the outside on the outside. Right. So, and actually nothing too difficult. So let's do, we'll do the first bit as in the instructions. So you can either make the outer piece, which has just got a bit of quilting, or you can do the zip section. So that's what I did first of all, the zip section. So let's pop that out of the way, and the pockets for the minute, and that. So that's all out of the way. So now I will have to press. So I'm going to press one of these pieces, and I'm going to show you how we do that. So I'm just going to get my pressing mat with my fabric, turn the iron on, and pop the camera down so that you can see. Okay, let's have a look to see what we are going to do. So as I say, you will do this for all 4 pieces like this and 2 white ones. I have got them done already, but let's see if I can bring that round here. So fabric iron, we're going to fold it in half so that wrong sides are together. And this is just the same as when you are making your, let's have to stand up here so I can see what I'm doing. So line those raw edges up and press. So we've got it pressed in half. We're going to open it out. Oops, I don't want to burn myself. Then fold the raw edge into that center crease and press like so, right up to that center crease, and then the other side in also. You want those raw edges just to meet in the middle like that. Okay, and then we're going to fold it over once more and make sure those outer edges line up beautiful, the folded edges. So all of your raw edges are completely enclosed. So you're going to make 4 of those and 2 white ones. Now, while we're doing that, I may as well do our handles while I've got the iron on. So this is our handle piece. So again, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to fold it in half with wrong sides together, line those edges up and press, open it out, raw edge to that center crease, and line that up and press, and then the other side, raw edge to the center and press. Now, what I would normally do then, fold it over and press again. But because I'm going to pop in a piece of fusible fleece, it is slightly narrower than an inch. I'm going to put it in there. It's a little bit longer there. Put that in, fold it over. Now I've got the fusible adhesive facing up, so I'm just going to give that a press first of all, and that will temporarily hold it together. And then I'm going to fold it over once again, lining those edges up. So just give that a nice press, and then our fusible fleece is in there, and it just makes it a little bit more structured. So I'm just going to trim off that bit. So the fusible fleece was just under an inch wide and the same length as the handle. So we'll complete that later, but that's just the pressing of, so it's ready to go when we need to do that bit. So pressing that out of the way, and we will look at, whoops, what we are going to do. So let's bring us down here. Right, so the first thing we are going to do is we are going to make our zip edges, I've called them. So we're going to take two of these pieces, and we're actually, so I've pressed them in half so they're like this, but we're going to open them out so that you can see the piece where the two raw edges come together. So we've got two, and we're going to put them, I'd call it right sides together. So this is the continuous side, and we're going to have the raw edges on this side and also the raw edges on that side. So if we just lay those together, exactly together there, I'm going to put a pin to start off with, just to hold it. And then all the way down, we just need to line those edges up there, because we're going to stitch right down the center. So where those edges come together, we're going to stitch between those edges. So let's just take that pin out now while I hold that, and let's put the first stitch in. Right, where's my foot? There it is. Okay, so right down the middle, and as we go, you can either pin this all the way or just hold those edges here together and stitch, 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 stitch. So let's just hold that down, and I can see, you could press them if you wanted to so that they are flat again, but I'm just stitching all the way down the middle. Don't know what that noise is. Okay, so there's one done. Take that one away. And then I've got two more because we need two of these. Evening, Carolyn. So there we are. We've got both of the raw edge ones. We're going to put the sides where there's no raw edges together, line up the one short end, and then pop it under the needle. And again, if we don't, oh, are we unthreading? Nope, that's good. And I'm just going to hold that so that these folded edges at the side, oops, oh, we've decided, I think we've decided we're so, no, we've decided we're going to unthread ourselves. Okay, let's just pop this in and rethread and start from the beginning again. Right, so hold that together, press a foot down, and we want our stitching right in between, that's it, right in between those raw edges. Hold that down, and you've got a nice line to follow because you can see where those edges come together. Okay, let's just bring that over there and stitch all the way down. Okay, so that's two of those. Thought for a minute it hasn't stitched. And then we've got two white ones as well. So again, open them out, pop our short ends together, and then back under the needle and just press those. So these white ones, they don't have to be white. If you wanted them to be like the other fabric, the bee fabric, you can do them in any fabric. You could do it in different colours. If you wanted to, you could put two different pieces of fabric together and it would make it really, really quite jolly to have lots of different fabrics there. So let's just trim those off. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just trim these ends of thread away. That's better. So once we have them like this, we're then going to, can you see it's like a cross? We're going to fold them the other way so that what we have now is a little insert there. We've got folded pieces which has got it's got a what would I say, a part where, and which is what we're going to do, where we're going to put the zip in between those two layers. Okay, so we are attaching a zip, but it's nowhere near as difficult, if you find it difficult, to put a zip in, because actually I'm going to put it this side. We're going to cover both sides, but so let's pop that just there. And what we'll do is we will use a pin just to hold that. And what it means is you've got fabric on the other side and fabric, and we're stitching through both layers at the same time. So either now pop your zipper foot on. Actually, I might put my zipper foot on because I have one, don't I? Let's see, I have it close to hand. I nearly always, so there is my zipper foot. I nearly always just change the position. Now I've got to change the position of my needle because we don't want it to go into, that's it. Right, so I've got my zipper foot on. I can take that pin off now. And again, you could pin all the way down, or or you could do as I'm doing, just lay the zip into that recess, into that there, and then just press the top down and hold that in place. So this is all we're doing, and I'm just stitching all the way down this edge, and we get a nice straight line for edging the side of the zip. Okay, so now I've got my zip attached at one side. So the next thing I am going to do is pop a white one on this side. Okay, so we're going to put a white one here, and all we need to do, I'm going to turn it round that way, but I'm going, we need to open these out first. So that's wrong at the minute. We're going to now push it together like that, so that again, we've got that little opening to pop our zip in. So all we need to think about is lining up the white where the end of the other fabric is as well. So we've got those lined up across there, and I'm going to do exactly the same. So what we're looking to achieve is have a zip section. So that's in place. Right, so let's just, that's good. Right, we'll carry on stitching there. I'm just going to show you in one of the, just so that you know what we're trying to achieve. We've got two zips. So here we are. So what we've just done is we've done this part with, we put the yellow zip edge there. We've got a zip, and I'm now just putting the white here. The next thing we will do is put another zip in the other side of it, and then another yellow section on the side of the zip. So I will show you when we get to it, this part here, which is the zip section. Okay, so you can see it here. We've got now the white fabric going on this side, and we're just pushing the zip all the way in to that edge, and that fits just perfectly. Okay, so what I should have said, but you can see that I'm doing, is just make sure that you've left, just cut that there, that you've left as part of the zip pull away, a little bit of excess zip at both ends. Okay, so the next thing is to get the next zip to put into this white side here. So this is why I'm having both of my zips going in opposite directions. So I'm just going to pop this in, and again, just making sure, I'll turn it the other way, just making sure, well, at this point, it doesn't matter where the zip is, making sure you've got excess at this end and excess here. So again, no, I do want it the other way, sorry. I want it this way. Or do I? No, I don't. I want it this way. Of course I do. Right, so I've tucked that in, and we are going to keep that tucked in all the way along here whilst I stitch along the white. And I must admit, I think this is one of the easiest ways of attaching a zip to, there was a bag we did in this way as well. Okay, so now I need to have some of this fabric on this side. So again, with our piece, just fold that the other way. Didn't get those lined up very well, but we shall be fine. Okay, and we are going to tuck that on. So again, making sure that all those all line up across the top there. And we're going to stitch the zip here as well. So I must say this perhaps is all about zips. So we can just push the zip tape into that recess and carry on stitching all the way down. Okay, so there is our zip section complete. Whoops, that's not very right. So we have our zip section complete. As you see, we've got our two zips. I've got the white fabric in the middle and your patterned fabric at each side. Next thing we need to do, this is where we take our pockets. So flappy open, we need a pocket to go in this side and also a pocket in the other side. So you could, if you want to, change your zip. Let's turn it around this way. That's it. So again, we are going to, I'll keep the zip foot on. We're just going to stitch across here. So we haven't got a zip, but we are just attaching the pocket piece. So while that's there, I'm just going to cut that. Okay, so we have, oh, it's can't cut the thread underneath either. Oh, what on earth is going on? Right, so I've got a pocket piece this side. I want one this side as well. So fortunately, the pocket pieces are square, so you really don't need to look. Okay, so let's just turn. Nope, we want it this way. There we go. And just make sure that is in and in line with your piece. Let's just turn that off a little bit. So we're basically making the pocket secure in that little zip edge that we've made. Okay, so there we have. So we're going to set that aside for a moment. Don't trim these off yet, because we need, for the next step, we need our base. So let's just take our zip foot off and put our normal foot back on, our standard foot. But also, if you have the opportunity to put your walking foot on, that is always good to do. So I've got a little lever that converts it. And what we're going to use now is our main outer piece. And we are going to pop the lining fabric on the reverse. So you can actually stitch whichever way you like. Perhaps I'll do it on this side so you can see more. Oh, why not prick yourself, Trisha? It's the same every time I use pins. So all I'm going to do is just line these up. And because they are exactly the same size, they should be, or it's not perfectly there, but we can put some pins in just to hold this all together. There we are. And all I'm going to do is use a long, I'm going to use a 4 as my stitch, and I'm going to stitch diagonally across. So I'm gauging, you could mark this all out with a heat erasable pen. Let's see if that, but I am just going to, I can take that out now. I am just going to guesstimate. Okay, that's it. So we have stitched across there. So I am just popping it down, and I'm not really, oh, you can't see that very well, can you? There we are. Oh, perhaps that's why I've got that. There we go. But I'm looking at the same width as my foot leaving here, so that I can then stitch another. I'm just looking at the other row of stitching there, just making sure it's in roughly the same place. And oh, it's wonderful when my threads don't cut. I need to clean that out. Right, so as I say, just diagonally across, and take that pin out now, because that's basically held where I wanted it to be. And the walking foot is going to hold this in position really nicely anyway. Oh, right. So that's trimmed that. And, but if you wanted to free motion this, absolutely can. If you wanted to go a further step, and oh, you see it cut it that time, and if you wanted a cross hatch, so go on the opposite diagonal to finish it off, that would look even nicer. But I'm sure you really don't want to watch me just doing straight stitching across a piece of fabric for ages. So this in effect is quite quick, just to do one step diagonal. And each time I'm looking at that little gap there, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I can see it looks very, that's it, let's do it this way. No, we'll do it this way, here we are. Because it's white, it's glaring, I can see. So let's stitch on this side instead, so that you can see all of the bees. And cut that thread there. And we'll take those pins out when we get to them. So, as you can see, I am just guessing, but I've got my guideline of the previous row of stitching. Okay. It's almost as if when the bobbin winds to a certain position, it decides it's not going to cut my thread properly. Never mind. So let's just stitch across here. And I show a little, there we go. And I'll make sure I don't cut the pins that I've got under there. We'll take those out in just a sec. Probably cut it this time, that's it. So let's just take these pins out while I'm viewing them, because the last thing I want to do is stitch over a pin. There we go. I think the quilting just adds a little bit to it. Oh, it decided it wasn't going to stitch there. Let's just see, have I... Oh dear, oh dear. Rethread that. I think we need to go in for a service, to be honest. Right, let's have a look. So I'm just going to pull that because it hasn't stitched. There's nothing worse than trying to join some quilting especially when it's right on the outside. So there we go. So let's just carry. So I just pull that out. It's not a long length of stitching to make much difference. And just trim that off. And we're nearly there. We're nearly there on the boring bit so that we can get ready to make the rest of it. Okay. Trim. See, that's what I'll have to do. Pick my scissors up, and it knows then that it needs to cut the threads for me. There we go. Right. Probably about 3 more rows to go. There we are. Oh no. See, we're going to not cut then. And nearly there. Right into the corner. And last one, just to hold this together nicely. And trim. Okay. So it's a good idea to go round here and trim off all those little bits of thread where we stopped and started, so that they're out of the way before we come to joining it together. So let's see what we have here. It's easier, there we are, easier to do it all in one go. And then you haven't got, let's have a look at the back here. Oh, there's a long piece there. We don't want that. That's going to go on the inside. Clip those off. Clip those off. So this is going to be on the inside of your holder. This is the outside. So with this side up, we're now going to take our zip piece. And, oh no, what we're going to do first of all, we're going to find the center at each side here. So if we fold it in half like that, and I'm going to put a pin at each side of the center. So let's put a pin just here. So then when I turn that way, I can see that that is my center line. So then we're going to put the zip pocket piece, or the zip section with the pockets, and we're going to line that center white seam there with our pins. So you can see my pin here. So I'm just going to line that up just there, and I'm going to put a clip on there. It's just easier to put a clip, so I know that is totally central. And then at the other edge, we're going to see that this lines up here where that pin is, just there. So let's put that just there. I'm going to take that out, and that's definitely in the center. And I'm just going to take this over to the needle, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch. So in that seam in the ditch. Now, what length stitch have I got? I don't want 4 now. We'll go back to our normal. So we're going to stitch in the ditch there. So you won't see this particular row of stitching, but it is forming the pockets because, whoops, there we go. It's now dividing these pockets, you see. So let's just trim that. We can take these off now because it's attached. And you see that's attached there. So that's enclosing that pocket and that pocket. And what you will find, I'm going to use some pins again. What you will find is that the pocket piece is a little bit longer than, so I'll put some pins here too, and then just turn that around, line those edges up, and we're going to trim off the excess pocket so that it is exactly. So if we turn that over, you can see there's about probably 1/2 inch excess, which we can trim away so that it is exactly the same size as our outer piece. Now the reason I put the, I'm doing this, I could have put the exact size, but depending on stitching, it may be that yours fits. The other thing I didn't want to do was, have a piece of fabric for the pockets that was 6.5 inches by 6 inches, because it was very easy to put it in the wrong way round and thinking it wouldn't fit. So by having it 6.5 inch square, it doesn't matter which side you pop in. Right, so now I've got that done. Let's just take away, you can see some bits of thread here. So the next thing we need to do is open our zips so that the zip is here. Open our zip so the zip is there. Zip pull, and then we can trim these edges off. These excess zip away. So we've taken those away. So they're flush with the edge. And here also we can trim those away so that our edge is completely in line. Okay, so another thing for being belts and braces, let's just make sure, oh, that's it. I'm also going to stitch all the way around the edge so that all the layers are held together, and we can do a longer stitch there just so that it's done quickly. So I'll start near the zips so that we can stitch those in place so that they're not going to open up or they're not going anywhere they shouldn't do. And then about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, there we are, we're going to go, and around here, I would really have preferred to take this to the cutting mat to cut this nice, oh, I've still got my thing on, haven't I? Let's just take that up so that I can, I've got my walking foot on still on, that's why. There we go. That's better. So we can go all the way around this edge, over those open zips, take that pin out, and keep this, as I say, 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I might just trim this up just a little bit because, there we are. Doesn't appear to be perfectly aligned. A little bit of inaccurate cutting. But what I would do, when we trimmed off the excess pocket, I would actually do that with a rotary cutter and ruler so that you've got a nice, perfectly straight edge. Oh, don't let that come up. There we are. So I started on the edge of the zip, and now that's finished there. Let's see. That's probably why it didn't like cutting, because I'd got the attachment on. So let's just trim that down. There we go. And I think, let's just have a look here. That's it, just so that everything is in line with the edge of the outer fabric. So trim those little bits, and also any excess threads there. Oh, we've got a little bit here as well. Just trim that off, because I know the B fabric is exactly the right size. So we're just taking that off. Okay. So we are doing very, very well. So we've really got most of that prepared. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going for our handle, because we need to get that in place. So having folded that together earlier, I'm now just going to top stitch down each side. So let's just go to our, there we are, we're going to our straight stitching right down this side, just to enclose those open edges. So let's go across there just for ease, and then straight back down the other side. Okay. So trim those off. So there we have our handle. So all we're going to do here is turn that over, and handle placement goes where we had our line on the other side for our zip section. We can center that. So I'm going to pop that just there and put a clip on there just to hold that in place. And the same on the other side. There is my seam. So I'm just going to center that so I know that's on the right side. And I'm just going to stitch. So let's go down to, that's it. So I'm just going to stitch that within that seam allowance, within that 1/8 of an inch, because that's holding that. Okay, and trim that off. And then we'll do the other side as well. So again, this is in the center. There we are, and trim that off too. And take those away. Oh, there's some little bits of thread just there. Okay, so there's our handle. The other thing, if you wanted to, you could do a little box at this edge as well. That could be done. Just going to trim that zip off. It looks a little bit excess there, a bit of an excess. So we have our handle in place. And the only thing we need to do now, or one of the only things, is to put our binding on. So we've folded our binding here. Now I've got a different way, quite an easy way of doing this as well. So you could do it if you're like it when you're binding a quilt, if you wanted to, when we join them in a different way so that there's a diagonal join. But this way, we haven't done this for a little while. So if you open out the piece that you have folded, and if we make a diagonal cut, so I'm going across here. So it's about 45 degrees, but I've cut off a triangle from there. So that's going to come like that. But what we do is we want to neaten that edge by folding it over. So if we just get the iron again, so open that out, press a little bit over. I'm just going to nail press that to begin with, like that. And then I'll just get the iron in. Whoops. So the iron in there. Just press that. So that's nicely pressed. And then also give that a press like that. Last time we need to use the iron. So this way is really, really quite easy. So you can see there. And then I'm just going to trim off that little triangle because we don't need that. Serving no purpose. But we have our binding. So let's go back. Now, if you want to make this all on the sewing machine, what we need to do is start our binding on the pocket side. If you want to hand sew after we've stitched around, then we'd set it onto this side, on the right side, and then we can turn it over and hand sew to the pocket side. But I like to do it all on the machine. So we've got this piece folded back again. So where we're going to start stitching is not right here. We're going to start about an inch down from here. So I'm going to lay that on the edge, and I'm going to, as I say, I'm starting about an inch down from this, leaving this bit flappy. So I'm going to stitch with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and that's it. So I'm just going to get my machine foot in a better place. That's it. So I'm going to stitch just like we did make a quilt. So 1/4 of an inch from this edge here, I'm going to stop and pivot so that I stitch into that diagonal. And then I'm going to fold my strip to the right. So I didn't quite go down far enough. And when I fold it, it creates a diagonal. And when I fold it, the rest of the strip is parallel with, so it makes a continuous line with this edge. So having done that, I'll put my finger on there, bring the binding to the left. Sorry, it's to the right to start off with. Now to the left. Make sure this folds on the edge. So on the edge there is where the fold is. And then we can just pivot that round and we'll start stitching right from the edge. Okay, we're doing 1/4 inch seam allowance here. So let's just pop that on. And when we get to within 1/4 inch from this end, we're going to stitch into that diagonal too. Okay, and trim. Okay, or don't trim. Then we're going to flip it to the right and finger press, flip it to the left, fold at the edge, and then turn it around. And starting right from the edge with our 1/4 inch seam allowance, we're going to go along this long edge too. So I'm keeping the edge of my foot right on the edge, so that I am getting my true 1/4 inch seam allowance. And that means when I fold the binding back, it's going to fit perfectly, she says, hoping. Okay, so again, we are getting to within 1/4 inch of the end, and then we will pivot diagonally, trim and take away, and then move it over to our right, like that. Give that a nail press down the fold, over to the left, and fold at the edge, and then we've only got one more corner to go. So we will carry on across here. And it's what we do once we get, so I'm looking for 1/4 inch from the end. There we go. And off to the edge. And trim. And fold it to the right. Fold it to the left. And that fold along that edge. And we're looking now to where we're coming down to our start point. So let's come around here. So here's our start point. We can see this little bit here. And so I'm going to come over here. Now I'm just making sure my handle is out of the way, because I could feel it was a little bit lumpy there. So come across here. And what we're going to do is slot this bit. So I'm just going to, this bit is going to slot in here, and we're going to fold that piece over. Actually, I may as well leave that just as it is. Okay, so I've folded that in, or rather, let's do it again. So there is my little opening. So I'm going to place this piece on the top and pop that in so that the diagonal then comes across. And what this is doing now is closing that up. Well, I've got a little bit of a ripple there, which I didn't want to have, but we won't see that. Right, and we'll go down to where we started. Now, I do like it to be, so I'm just going to go over that little bit again, because it came in, I wasn't lined up perfectly. That's better. So I wasn't lined up perfectly with the edge there. Okay, so all we need to do now, let's just clip these little bits of thread off at the corners, because believe you me, they do get in the way. So let's come down this end as well. These are just the threads where we stopped and started. And a bit there, a little bit here, and that bit there. Okay, so now all we're going to do is exactly what we do with a quilt. So we are going to, oh, there's a long bit there. We're going to fold these back, And we're going to make mitered corners as we go. So if we start, this is where our join is here. So it's easier to start where that is so that we get that in place first of all. So having turned that over, oh, you see, I can see some bits of thread there, which they do get in the way as we're going. But if we clip those away, that's lovely. So where was it? We can hardly see. So here is my join just there. So I'm going to bring that over. Okay. Now you could, if you wanted to, go the whole way round and, oh, let's just pop that down. You could go the whole way around and clip it, or as I'm doing, I'm just going to stitch. So I'm just going to hold the handle out of the way here, pull my binding over, and it will go over this stitching that we did to hold everything together. And if you stitch that 1/4 inch all the way round, we should get a lovely even binding coming over. So then we can just push that corner over for the moment. This is where we're going to make a mitre. So I'm pulling that away so that it can pull over, and I can see that is exactly the same width all the way down there, which is what we aim for. Okay, so let's come a little bit further down, like that. And then just as we're coming down to this corner part here, what I'm going to do, let's come even closer. I like to use my seam ripper, and I bring the seam ripper down to the bottom and flatten that bit there so that I can then pull it up. Whoops, that didn't work, did it? So push it down, pull the next side up, and we form our mitre there. You can see that nice diagonal. So then if we just pull that in, and we can put the point of the seam ripper in there, and that's holding them all together until, that's it, I can see the needle has gone into this edge, so I can then pivot and carry on stitching round to the next corner. So let's just pull that over while we're there, and pull that over, and we're coming up to this next corner, so pull that all the way, and we're just about right. So again, I'm just pulling this flat. I'll put the seam ripper just there and push that up to create our mitre. Okay, let's pull that out there. And when we've created that mitre, we can put the tip into the tool. There we are. Well, I like it to go through both layers, really. So let's just carry on stitching a little bit more, and then put it down, and then you can watch for, that's it. My needle has gone into this part now, so that I can come around, turn it around, keep pulling all these, the binding over, like that. Pull the handle out of the way here, and carry on stitching. There we go. And you see, oh, there we are. Pull this corner over as well, and pull that over and that over, and carry on stitching down there. I love going around these bindings with doing it all by machine, and you know, practice makes perfect. It's like everything, isn't it? So again, I've come down to the bottom, just make sure that's all pulled out completely, flatten it down, and then push this up to create that lovely mitre. And if you can get the seam ripper poked in there, there we go. Whoops, oh, it didn't go in that yet. So it's just one more stitch and we're in there. Turn it around up to the final corner. So I pull that right out and tuck it in. There we go. And, oh, gone a little bit far there. But we're going to make this final mitre here, which, oh, I'm right on top of it. but we'll make it work. So I've got that's it, the seam ripper's holding that down. So that's into the binding. And now we've just got to meet where we started. So if you can manage to get on the exact stitching that you did when you started off, nobody can see where you started. So there's a bit of thread. There's a bit of thread. And then hopefully over here, all you can see, you really can't see that much stitching in there at all. But there is our pocket. So we've got our pocket down there. Obviously it can't go any further than there because we had that central seam. So now all we need to do is fold that over, and that meets. We've got the handle at the top. I measured 1.5 inches in from each edge for my cam snaps. You need practice on your miters, do you? I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they are. There we are. And then 1.5 inches in from this end too. So let's just mark those. And then with my seam ripper, I'm going to pop that in there, make a little hole. That in there, make a little slit. And where has my, oh, here we are. So just get my cam snaps, and I like to use my hand pliers sometimes. And this is just, so on the outside edge, you want to have your popper, okay, or the button part. So there is my button part, and I'm going to have the outie just here. So there is my outie. Oops, that has got a button on there as well. There it is. Right, so we put the outie on there, hold it with both fingers, and then put the button in there and give that a squeeze. And then the same on this side, on the other side of the front, we pop the button in there. You could do this on your green machine as well, or your Prim Vario tool. So pop that button in the white cap and squeeze. So we've got 2 set there, which is on the outside. So then what I do, line that bottom edge up so that the case is closed. And then if you just peel that up a little bit, and then you can see where this is, we just put a little mark. And similarly here, put a little mark where that outie is. And that's where we're going to make the next incision, because that is where the other part is going to go. Now you just have to remember, on this particular occasion, we want to have the button part on the outside each time. So let's have a look. Let's get a button there. Oh, they're all coming up, one slotted inside the other. Oh, that's it. There's 1 and there's 2. So we want the innies this time. So there we are, 1, 2. So as we said, put our button part on the outside, so on the outer fabric, and just press that down. Obviously I didn't slip that. Oh, there we are. And then we're going to put our innie on the top, and again take our pliers and squeeze. And similarly on this side, there is, whoops, dropped that one. Let's just try that again. Pop it in, press that little leg through, innie on the top, into the button, and squeeze. I did 1.5 inches in from each side. What's the measurement for the snaps? They don't look even. I think they are. I did measure 1.5 inches in from each side. It's hard for you, I think, to see. Have I got another ruler? Let me just get another ruler. Obviously, you would make sure they are even, whatever. So from the edge, of the button, that's 1 1/4, and from the edge of the button is 1 1/4. So I think they're very even, Jill. It must be the camera that's making it look uneven. But as I say, there we go. Open it up. We have our pocket this side and our pocket that side. And with our handle at the top, just press those together. There it is. So let's just go up again. Here we are. Oh, that's better. It was just so close in when we started. But there we go. Just as easy as that. And it really was quite easy, wasn't it? There we are. Yes. So, oh, glad you liked, Jane. I hope you all liked. So it is, as I said, you can make it whatever size you like. Now, my pockets, I think this or the outer was 14.5, and my pocket sizes were 6.5. So if you add those together, 6.5, 13. What I would do, if you're making your own size up, I would make your zip sections with the pockets that you wanted, first of all. Then, when you've got that size, you could cut your outer piece. So basically, make that up to whatever size you like. So depending on your zip sizes as well, zip lengths, make all of that. Then cut your outer fabric to whatever size that is. Put your wadding on the back of it and quilt it. Then you can put the two together and follow on the technique just as we did here. So the sky is the limit for you with this one. The technique is the same and you can do whatever you like. So thank you, Judith. Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, Patricia. And everybody else that likes it too. I'm glad you do. So, I'm getting hungry now. I bet you are. Well, you've probably had your evening meal, but I'm a bit peckish. I will see you on Thursday. Friday, I'm being taken out. I said it's a date night, so I will put a rerun on the So Totally Trisha page on Friday, but Thursday we'll do another little, it's an applique. Some of you will have done the technique, but I've got a nice little make using Always and Forever fabrics, and I think you'll like it. But it's just another quick and simple, but very effective make. So take care of yourselves and enjoy the rest of your evening. Let's hope tomorrow's a bit better for everybody, and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye for now.